you have all of these grand plans and a worldwide pandemic hits and it all kind of goes out the window. So I wanted to vlog our birth, and while vlogging it, you're about to find out why that didn't happen. So I'm gonna circle back a little bit. We didn't actually tell anyone that we were booked in for an induction. Her due date was the 17th of March. We were actually set to be induced on the 10th. We didn't tell anyone. Guess we just wanted to surprise everyone. The reason why we're going to be induced, you may or may not know that I had gestational diabetes. Not that it really affected my life at all. The other reason is that Harlie's an IVF baby. Some doctors agree, others disagree that IVF babies shouldn't go full term. I disagree, but I was very ready to meet this baby. The 4th of March, 2021, one of our friends had said from the beginning that they kind of anticipated that Bodhi might be the one to pick up whether we were going into labour or not. She was actually right. Jazz would always let me sleep in, at least until she had to go to work or log on to work, because coronavirus, most of us work from home. This particular morning, Bodhi had come in at 7:30 a.m. and was like, "Mummy, you got to get up. You got to get up." And I was like, "What? Why? What's wrong?" All of a sudden, I just remembered someone saying to me, "If your water breaks, you don't want it to happen in your car or in the bed because you'll never get rid of the smell." I think it was like a warm sensation, but there was no fluid. And that came into my head and I was like, I need to get out of bed. So I got up out of bed, and lo and behold, as I stood up, Bodhi says, "Mama, are you doing a wee-wee?" My water broke and it was going all over the floor in our bedroom. I yelled out to Jazz. I was like, "Babe, can you come here?" She comes in and she's like, "Bodhi, I told you not to wake up Mama." I was like, my water's broken." Jazz goes into a panic. "Oh my God, we have to call Nana." I was like, don't need to call my mum. Need to maybe get me something to help with the fluid running down my legs. She throws me a microfiber towel, but like a little one, like a cloth. So we need to call a hospital. I had said from the beginning this baby was coming early, and she did. But my mum didn't believe it and wasn't due to come until the 7th of March. I called the hospital and they're like, "Yeah, cool, your water's broken, no massive deal. Come when you're ready, you know, in the next hour." And I was just as cool, calm and collected as that as well. Got my hospital bag, Jazz packed Bodhi's bag, breaking out by the way, her work stuff, and off we went. 8 o'clock in the morning.
Morning this time.
What?
It's a bit cold for aircon, mate. Mummy's going to turn it off.
I just turned it off.
Oh.
What date is it? What's the date today?
Oh, God knows. Doesn't matter anyway. She won't come today, will she?
The 4th?
I just turned it off, buddy. Yeah, Mummy called too.
I think it's like the 4th of March. Anyway, we are booked in for our induction next.
Fuck, I've got a haircut appointment tomorrow. Sorry.
I'm so glad I got that on camera.
It's just me thinking out loud.
My water's broke at 7 o'clock this morning. 7:30. And we're on our way to the hospital.
For a checkup.
For a checkup to see where we're at. We dropped Bodhi off at his grandparents. So by the time we arrive at the hospital, I think it was about 8:30 at this point. I had only just gotten a tightening as I was getting out of the car. We even left my hospital bag in the boot because we didn't actually think we were going to be staying. When we arrived in the suite, they put me on a fetal heart rate monitor around my belly. And they didn't check my cervix, nothing, and off they went. Jazz went and grabbed us some coffee and some breakfast. She set herself up in the corner to work. What you doing, babe?
Filling out baby food things.
We're labelling colostrum syringes. This is frozen. And they won't take it unless it's fully labelled, just for obviously safety purposes, in case I have AIDS. By about 9 o'clock, our midwife had come to kind of look at what was happening on the monitors, and she was like, I feel like because you had a fast birth with your first, we might just keep you for at least another hour and see what's going on. She had to be called down to the inpatients where maternity appointments are, and she's like, I'll be back in an hour. By about, I reckon, 9:15, I had started to get frequent times. Nothing to really be alarmed at. I was kind of just cruising around our suite as they were happening. But then, like, they started to get really intense. Like, by 9:30, I couldn't talk through these contractions anymore. I was in labour. It was definitely happening, but we still hadn't been visited. And Jazz actually had to go grab someone. Didn't really believe us when Jazz told her that my contractions were 3 minutes apart. They were kind of on top of each other. And when asked if I thought about pain relief, and I very confidently said, I want an epidural. After a few more contractions, Jazz actually had to go out to the nurse's station that's outside our suite and say, shit is getting real right now. Can we get someone? By the time my midwives got back from outpatients, I was vocally labouring, which for me, even with Bodhi, is not normal. Both Bodhi and Harlie were posterior babies, and having posterior labour it's been dubbed apparently the most painful, but it's in your back and it kind of feels like someone has winded you. It's really hard to explain, but you can't even breathe through it very well because it hurts so much. They got me on the gas in the corner. By the time they had a look and actually checked me at that point, so around 10 o'clock, I was 7 centimeters dilated. At one point, while I was on all fours in the corner on the gas, one of my midwives had her hand on my back and the other one was laying on the bed with her head right beside my ear, counting with me to keep me breathing through my gas and try and keep me like on planet Earth. And I remember the one beside me saying, this baby's coming. I knew that there was a really high possibility that the anaesthetist was not going to make it. I knew my body and I knew exactly where I was at pretty much. I knew that she was coming and she was coming really fast. Also, TMI, we're just going to switch it back for a second. Most women deal with constipation through their pregnancy. I was the polar opposite. I had the runs nearly every single day. So as my body is laboured to them, I need to poo. And I know you're going to tell me I'm not allowed to, but I need to poo. And they were like, nah, go, try. We'll be right here. Like, if anything happens, we're there. If baby comes out, baby comes out. Awesome. I actually did need to. But I remember in the thick of labour, in the corner, on the gas, and I wasn't allowing my body to do what it needed to do because I was so paranoid about shitting everywhere. But because I'd had diarrhea my entire pregnancy, it was gonna be fucking epic, essentially. It wasn't gonna be a pretty birthing poo. It was gonna be. But I also knew that by doing that, I was almost making my pain worse because I was not allowing my body to relax and do what it needed to do. Then at that point, I remember putting my knees together and putting my feet out to the side as much as I could, which actually allows your entire pelvis and cervix to open. And I remember doing that and it was like everything shifted. And my midwives were like, yeah, we're gonna have to throw out your underwear. I giggled at that point because I knew that I had shit everywhere. That's also when our anaesthetist Greg came into the room and started doing that horrible spiel they do when they're trying to tell you everything that could go wrong, and you're like, I know you legally have to tell me this, but just give me the fucking drugs, please. He was like, I need you to not move, and I just don't know if we're going to be able to get you there. Something inside me shifted, and being told that I might not be able to have my epidural all of a sudden made my mind take over my body, and I stopped any contraction coming my way. I got up on that bed, I stayed perfectly still, and Jazz and even the midwives were like, it was scary to watch how zen you became. You didn't talk, you were completely silent, and you stayed so perfectly still, and you just said, Greg, go. Greg was phenomenal. Got the epidural. I experienced some really intense contractions right after the epidural went in. And for those of you that have had one, know that it takes about 15 to 20 minutes for that epidural to kick in, and that time is the longest time of your labor waiting for your epidural. Once that kicked in, they get you to relax, and they will often tell you to go to sleep, and they'll wait a couple of hours for your body to naturally transition and try and push the baby down on its own. My sister arrived after all of the entertaining shit happened, and she was right there with me and Jazz doing squats. She was in the middle of a squat challenge, my sister, and her and Jazz decided to do it and film it, and it was hilarious.
Oh, listen to my shorts.
I'm in labor and these guys doing squats.
I definitely don't have the shorts for this game.
It was too late to get my hospital bag that was still tucked away safely in the back of our car, in the car park. So we just got some tunes set up. I didn't have all of the things I wanted for labor, like my essential oils, blah, blah, blah. But do you know what? Honestly, my birth team went that amazing. The vibe in the room was really, really wonderful. So I don't think I needed it at that point. I think it was probably about 12:30, 1 o'clock. With Bodhi, I had an epidural. I birthed on my back. I had a lot of intervention, and I ended up having a really traumatic birth. This time I made sure that I had researched as much as I possibly could, and I had learned that just because you have an epidural, you don't have to birth on your back. I had a birth plan, or a preference list as I like to call it, that specifically stated I did not want to birth on my back, even with an epidural, and I was lucky enough to get 2 midwives that were totally on board. Once it was time to push, we had tried and tested a few different positions that left us all in fits of laughter that just didn't work. Eventually we ended up in an upright position with the bed back all the way forward and my knees right up. So it was almost like a throne position, which was optimal for me, worked really well. The labor just wasn't kicking. So oxytocin was introduced.